really haven't been too on top of the video since I've been here. I think mostly because I've been just trying to
Like my style? Hit the subscribe button so you don't
retreat
miss any future
into
videos.
some more private and even seclusive vibes or feelings in general. This is definitely a great place to do it, and a beautiful one at that. Coming up on the end of my trip here, and I do have about 10 days left, so it's not completely finished, but it definitely feels like almost the end. I'm starting to mentally switch back into life in the US, and it doesn't mean that traveling's over. It just means that there's a certain level of dedication that has to be applied back to the work-life balance, and trying not to get caught up too much in the modern attitudes that really are very apparent and present. Trying to get back to certain scenes that I do legitimately kind of fawn over. I love the sunsets, I love the beach, I love feeling like I'm on the West Coast. That was always a dream of mine, and part of me feels like I still don't have much to show for it after 5 years. I don't have my own place. I don't have really any friends there, and I still don't have a mentor. So those kinds of things, coming to terms with them, can be very humbling and a bit frustrating to admit, because after that amount of time you would probably logically anticipate that you would have established something for yourself, and it's not like I haven't. I still have these ventures I've pursued that have had marginal success, and I think ultimately time will kind of run its course and allow those to blossom, because that's what things do, with time. But on the other hand, I do have to kind of look at things practically and see the larger scope, which is that time is flowing, things are moving, and if I don't get my shit together, if I don't apply a great deal of pressure and focus to everything that I do, then it will kind of slip away. And it's competitive, it's challenging. It's not like I can just go there and fuck off, because there's a lot of people who would probably take my place if they could, and are probably actively fighting to develop something for themselves. So I'm keeping that in mind. I'm trying not to get sucked into the rat race as I kind of assimilate back. But the time here really was much needed. If I can never find complete peace with everything family, friends related, then that's okay, as long as I have these periods where I'm able to kind of detach a bit and travel and do something really just for me. Because man, the universe knows that I've tried with relationships. It's definitely something that gave me a lot more trouble these last few years than ever before. It used to be something that I really felt like I excelled in, and now it seems to be the one thing that I really am quite, don't want to say horrible in, but there's always something that seems to be left on the table, not really to my choosing per se, but it's one thing that I've really tried to reconcile, and I haven't yet, so I'm hoping that some of those can, breathe new life in the future and maybe find some sort of harmonious ending, because there's also others that drag on, and things don't have to drag on. We have a lot of time on our hands, sure, but seasons come and go, and so do people, so does life. I've definitely accepted that, but it's hard because sometimes we want to cling to it, and we want to believe that these connections and these people and these places that we've grown attached to, that we have put so much energy into over the years, we want to believe that they are along with us for the long haul, for the long run. And maybe they are in a spiritual sense that doesn't always manifest physically, And there's people from my past that, oftentimes when they do cross my mind, I have a positive feeling about it. And there is a small portion of me that would like to, just reach out and, pick up where we left off. But of course, on the other hand, I know that there's a reason why we're not actively engaging. We have clearly had our differences and separated, whether intentionally or passively, through life, and that has transpired, in a way that sometimes feels natural. So, it doesn't always feel like a great idea to fight that and to really force something, because maybe that's just gonna bring up old wounds and reignite the reasons why you two, or the collective group per se, may have kind of parted ways to begin with. So yeah, that's just how I'm thinking about it, how I'm processing everything. I think this is a good place to do that. Fortunately, I don't come from places where reflection seems to be the norm. At least ostensibly, I come from those places. Maybe arguably the larger existence itself, but you've got to try to fill in the gaps and find places or people, hopefully, that can make us feel a bit more complete. And at least when I'm traveling, I seem to be able to do that pretty easily. So I'm at least grateful about that, and I feel pretty connected to where I am right now. Don't really want to leave, but on the other hand, I want to make progress in California, and I want to make these goals I have a reality. And I can't do that if I'm just, not hiding, but if I'm just relaxing per se here, recuperating. Eventually, your strength is back at 100%, and you got to just jump back in. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good overall. I think it's just a matter of, you know, putting it all together and, you know, just jumping back into the fray and seeing what life has in store, you know? Just gonna keep on trying my best and, you know, hoping that things align where I need it most and, you know, kind of direct me to where I really want to be. And the other stuff, you know, I'll try to figure it out when it comes and give it my best, and hopefully things work out. So anyway, thanks for tuning in wherever you are in the world, and try to keep your head up and try to stay, you know, guided, stay, you know, composed on your own journey, and most importantly, you know, stay focused. You got to keep your head down, you got to keep working, and you have to rejuvenate when you feel tired, and when you feel like it's ready to get back in and jump in, then, you know, put yourself in, get your feet wet, and get to work. So it's about time to do that for me, so I'm excited. All right, anyway, until the next one, take care and peace.